Okay, so you just finished the script. You're really happy with it, but you know it's a little rough around the edges. It's your first draft. You're excited to make the corrections, to make some updates. So you send it out to some of your trusted friends and writer. Maybe you have a writers group. Maybe you share it on a Facebook page with other writers. You're eager to get some feedback, and then you start getting feedback, and it's all over the place. You don't know what to implement, what's actionable, what's good feedback, what's bad feedback. Um, and you're kind of lost. Like now I'm more lost than I was in the beginning when I was just trusting my gut. Now I've got all these outside influences I've got to, take into consideration. So what do you do in that situation? Recently, I started working on a project. I don't know if I'm going to continue it through completion, but it was something I got in my head. I started riffing on it, got about 11 pages into the first act, and I decided to get some feedback on it before I, start committing more time. And I posted it on it as part of my account on the screenwriting Facebook group, and I got some good feedback, but some of it was not what I was expecting. Of course, in your heart of hearts, you always want people to come back and be like, this is the greatest thing I've ever read. But realistically, that's not going to happen. You're going to get people opinions, and that's what you want, because the readers are going to have opinions, producers are going to have opinions, contest readers are going to have opinions. So you want to hear what they're seeing that you're not seeing. That is what that was in your head you put on the page really what you put on the page, or are you giving a different image to the reader? So there's only really one way to know, and that is to get their feedback. Okay, so I'm going to show you the first page of this project, and then I'm going to show you some of the feedback I received. And this isn't to negate any of the feedback, because I believe all feedback is valid, because that is the person's opinion. However, some of it is contrary to other feedback you're receiving. So what feedback should we accept and what feedback should we kind of ignore? So I like to break it down into a couple categories. I kind of go through it in my head, if not, on paper. I first look at what is a story problem or a perceived storytelling problem. A story problem would be plot holes, characters not acting the way you think they would, things just not feeling right. And that's what you'll get a lot of times with readers. They don't always know what's wrong, but they'll be able to tell you when things kind of went off the rails based on their feedback. So if it's a story problem, they'll be like, I just didn't get why, the protagonist did this at this time. It seemed out of character, like I didn't get it. That's generally a story problem. There's also storytelling problems, and that would be maybe you forgot to put a detail in a scene description, or you forgot an action that comes into play later. You forgot to set up something that pays off, or pay off something that you set up earlier. That could be a storytelling problem, like in the way you're actually writing. And that's the difference. You want to know what is a problem or what could be better written to make it more clear. I'm always big on things being clear and concise in as few words as possible. And if your image in your head is not getting construed to them, it's generally a storytelling problem. Those can be easier to fix if you can identify them. Story problems are generally harder to fix. I would argue that they're easier to identify, but harder to come up with a solution. I also look at what the feedback is criticizing or commenting on. For instance, a lot of non-writers, the first thing that they'll pick up is actually punctuation, spelling, grammar. They think you're looking for a proofreader. They want somebody, that you want somebody to go through it and say, oh, you spelled this wrong. This is should be double spaced. This should be, and that feedback can be important, and it's valuable, and it's viable. It's a valid feedback. However, I think most of us as writers, especially in fiction or screenwriting, you want the story feedback. You want, did it make sense? Did the characters act right? Were they interesting? Was the dialogue, was the jokes funny? Like, those are I think the feedback that we're really hoping to get. We want to get to the meat of it, to know that the story we're telling is a good one and that they enjoyed reading it. A lot of people don't know how to give that kind of feedback, and that's okay. Um, so generally, if they give you feedback on punctuation, spelling, capitalization, while those are all valid comments and valid feedback and very actionable often, um, that's not always what we're looking for, but it can be just as helpful. So those kinds of things, you can either fix them right away, or sometimes I'll wait till the end to fix them, just because a story problem, you're going to have to rewrite something somewhere. It may be a whole scene, it could be a whole sequence. You could be putting things out of order, like dialogue issues. If you fix dialogue, that's great. However, you may end up deleting the whole scene. So generally you want to work from biggest to smallest problems. And to me, punctuation, grammar, dialogue, generally those are the smaller problems. So you want to work on the bigger ones first. So you kind of go from biggest to smallest. Not all feedback is equal. I did say all feedback is valid because it's coming from a place of hopefully honesty and someone trying to help. Someone took the time out of their day, out of their life to read your work and to tell you what they think. And I appreciate, and you should appreciate, anybody who does that. But not all feedback is equal. What I mean by that is, what is the person's frame of reference? What is their history? Are you getting feedback from a professional writer? Are you getting feedback from a professional executive, a person who has past experience in a production company, who's seen 10,000 scripts in their life and they know what works and what doesn't? Are you getting feedback from someone who has less experience than you? Not to say that that's not valid, but consider the source, is what I'm getting at. You judge the criticism on what level it is. Is it story or storytelling? And where is it coming from? What experience does this person have? Especially when you're posting something on Facebook where there could be 90,000 or more potential readers. You're going to get feedback that's contradictory. You're going to get feedback that's flat out wrong often. And you're going to get feedback that's correct. So you kind of have to consider the source and go to the next step and take it from there. Another word I used earlier, actionable. What you're really hoping to get is actionable feedback. Now, like I said, some people may not know how to give actionable screenplay feedback. They just know something's off. Often, like I said, I think I've said it before, my wife is often the first reader of my stories. I'll give her usually like the second draft after I've had a chance to go over it and get opinions. And she doesn't always know how to explain it to me in a way that I'm thinking of it. Is act 1 too fast? Is act 3, good enough or whatever? Like, is these plot points, where they're supposed to be, if you buy into that sort of thing. But she is a very good judge of this works and this doesn't work. And as a writer, we're going to probably get that feedback a lot, even if we become professionals. And a lot of times people won't know how to explain what the problem is or how to fix it, but they can explain where the problem is and where their interpretation, where it didn't feel right to them. And I think that's important skill for us to have as well, is we need to be able to see the note beyond the note. That's a phrase I've heard a bunch of times, is if someone says, this isn't working for me, let's change it to something else. Maybe that change it to something else doesn't fix the problem, but you can look into what they're saying and say, oh, I see why they said that. So it's another reason not to just ignore or get defensive. I probably should have said that sooner. Don't get defensive. Like I said, all feedback is valid. That doesn't mean all feedback should be implemented. Generally, after you've received the feedback, you've had a chance to look over it, don't react immediately. You know, it's easy to get defensive or to try to explain why you did what you did. Just try to keep that internal. Read what they're saying, no matter how they say it. Some people are going to come at you more blunt, some people are going to sugarcoat it. Either way, take it and listen to it. And then look at your script and say, I can see what they're saying. I do or do not agree with it. I do or do not agree with the way they're saying to fix it. A lot of times they won't give you an option to fix it. They'll just say, this isn't working for me. If they do say, maybe do it this way, make a note of that, make a mental note. If you start getting the same feedback from different people, then that lets you know that something needs to be changed, that somebody's not getting it, that your point isn't getting across, and that could be a storytelling issue. If your point is getting across and people still don't understand it, still don't like it, still aren't resonating with them, then that's a story problem. So basically what it boils down to is, at the end of the day, it's your piece of writing. It's your work. Not everybody is going to see your vision the way you see it, but ultimately you want them to see it the way you are intending to write it. So take their words, don't get defensive, look into them. If they're repeated, then there may be an issue that you need to correct. If it's an outlier, if it's a one-off, if you just think that person had, some people don't like a certain format or don't like a certain rule, then maybe you just let it slide and say, okay, I appreciate your feedback. Thanks for reading it for me. But you don't have to implement anything. And now in this context, I'm talking about a spec script that you're writing for yourself and you're trying to get feedback from. If you're taking notes as part of a development, as part of a team, you should be more open to changes. Again, don't get defensive, but if there is something, a hill that you're willing to die on, so to speak, try to explain it with facts and story reasons. Don't just defend it because, well, I wrote it this way, it makes sense to me, I don't want to change it. If you're part of a team, if you're being paid for a job, that's a quick way to no longer be getting paid for that job or no longer being part of that team. But in this context, I was talking about writing a spec on your own for free and trying to get feedback on it to see if you're, getting near what you want that piece of work to accomplish, what you want the audience to feel. But ultimately, it's up to you. You don't have to take any feedback that you get. But generally, if you're getting similar feedback, or you're getting feedback from a experienced, professional or an experienced writer who's done this, who's had some success, you definitely want to take a look at it and say, yeah, maybe I could do this better. And in this case, this was a first draft for me in my specific example. So yeah, there's going to be issues. And I think that's something we just all have to get used to. If we want our work to be good, we're going to have to get feedback. We're going to have to want feedback. We want the criticism. And you have to get to that point where, of course, nobody likes to be criticized. Everybody wants everything they do to be golden and everybody to love it. That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Even if you write something amazing that gets sold, they're going to change they're going to change stuff. And that's just the way it is. And that's part of production. That's just part of the business. But even if you're writing a first draft, there's going to be changes. You're going to make changes. Step away from it for a few months, put it in a drawer, come back to it. You're going to say, why did I make that decision? Why did I write it that way? I should have did it this way. And there's always going to be corrections. A piece of work or art, again, I don't always like referring to the writing as art, but it is an art form. It is a craft. And it changes. It changes as we change. I look at stuff I wrote 10, 20 years ago, and I can't believe that I wrote that garbage. I just can't, because we're looking at it through a lens of all the experience we've gathered since the time we wrote it. At the time, I thought it was great. Now it's horrible. And just like right now, we look at it and we say, okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to punch it up, but it's pretty good. In the future, we might look at it and say, no, it wasn't good. So I think we have to allow ourselves to feel that criticism and think, well, maybe right now I need this feedback. I need these people to tell me these things. So we have to be appreciative of it. And I think that's the biggest thing. Get the feedback. Get used to getting feedback. And then get experience at implementing the feedback, whether that means changing the script or not changing the script, but getting it and being able to solve any story or storytelling problems yourself. Get your gut to be used to it, to get experience doing it. And I'm not saying you'll get to a point where you'll never need feedback or external opinions again, but you'll be able to trust your gut more. The more experience you get, the more you can believe, or not believe the things people are telling you. And ultimately, I think that's what we all want, is to be able to write something, have confidence that it's good, and then have other people read it and be affected by it. So I hope this helps you get feedback, implement feedback, or ignore feedback, depending on where it's coming from. So have a good day. This was Ken from Right From Wrong, and keep writing. Good luck.